Hello, I'm Elise Vance, the author of the channel Borrowed Lives, and I offer you fascinating stories. Like and subscribe to my channel.
The morning I was scheduled to transfer my entire industrial research database to Apex Dynamics, an encrypted audio file arrived from an unlisted satellite terminal. A gravelly voice warned, "Cancel your contract with Apex. Julian is going to expropriate your specialized neural mapping algorithms and lay the blame for the system crash on you." Before I could reply, the connection severed. Seconds later, Julian's text illuminated my screen. "Darling, don't strain yourself with the final architecture upload. Send me the unencrypted master key. I'll secure it on my server." My fingers turned cold. The warning and his message lined up with disturbing precision. I immediately locked down my primary workstation, staring at the flashing green submission prompt for Apex Dynamics. My cursor hovered above the button like a phantom. Then Clara rang, her voice effortlessly buoyant. "You're definitely signing with Apex today, right? I've already signed my co-location contract to stay in your department." Of course, I lied, feeling an internal tremor shift my reality. Later at the district cafe, Clara held my hand across the table, asking about the progress of my neural engine project. I couldn't discern whether her warm concern was genuine or orchestrated. The moment I mentioned that the final validation test was nearly complete, my handheld terminal emitted a high-frequency chirp. A silent system intrusion warning had been triggered. Clara leaned forward, her eyes wide with curiosity. I flipped the screen face down, but not before she caught a glimpse of the security diagnostics. Julian arrived moments later. Without a word, he subtly pulled a chair around so that he and Clara were sitting side by side, effectively cutting me off from the circle. I watched them in silence, realizing this distance wasn't new. It had been growing invisibly for months. Julian leaned toward Clara, whispering something that sounded like, "She's shielded." Clara's expression flickered with a brief hint of frustration. He then turned to me with an easy smile. "Forward the raw source codes to my unit. I'll archive them on the central server." "The system auto-archives to my personal encrypted cloud," I replied flatly. When I casually brought up their weekend excursion to the coast, both of them froze. I asked softly, "When were you two going to mention that trip?" Clara stammered, "I didn't want to stress you out while you were finalizing your project." Julian frowned at me, his eyes accusatory, as if I were the one causing a scene. I stood up, grabbing my coat. "Did you ask me here to see me, or did you need something from my drive?" That evening, Julian called and snapped, "Are you seriously acting paranoid over Clara?" I terminated the call before he could finish. Returning to my terminal, I canceled the Apex protocol and instantly routed my application to Vanguard Labs instead. While Julian and Clara posted updates from their coastal resort, Julian continued sending relentless messages. "Don't let petty jealousy compromise the integrity of your neural project." He spoke as if my life's work were his personal property. I ignored every notification and kept typing, embedding the final silent payload into the architecture. When my acceptance letter from Vanguard Labs arrived, the two of them appeared at my door almost immediately. "Is the neural engine fully compiled?" Julian asked without hesitation. "Finished," I replied. Julian's relief was obvious. He stepped closer. "Send the files to my drive. I'll submit them under the Apex flagship grant." I held up the official encryption key from Vanguard. "Why would I do that?" His polished demeanor cracked instantly. He grabbed my wrist, his grip tightening. "Your research is worthless unless it's backed by Apex's corporate weight." Everything suddenly clicked. I had already discovered his uncle was a senior board member at Apex, and their entire blueprint became transparent. Clara stepped up behind him, her voice soft and poisonous. "It would be such a shame if all this effort didn't end up at Apex." She emphasized the word shame. That night, my perimeter security blocked over 100 brute force hacking attempts. Desperation had officially replaced patience. Then a text arrived from Julian. "I think I dropped my key card at your apartment." I knew exactly what he wanted. I typed back, "Sure. Sometimes the best defense is letting the trap close." The next morning, I left my apartment unlocked and gave him plenty of time to steal what he assumed was my core database. When he texted, "I've left," I knew he believed he had won. I cut all communication with them for the rest of the month and moved to Vanguard Labs headquarters in September. On my first morning at the new facility, Clara sent a photo of herself and Julian standing outside the Apex Executive Tower. "You're missing out on us making history at Apex." I replied, "I wish you both a long and productive partnership." Then I blocked both of their numbers. I immediately brought my research to my new lab director. He reviewed the schematics and leaned back, visibly impressed. "This is extraordinary. This can put our institute on the global map." The gravelly voice from the mysterious satellite call echoed in my mind, recalling a specific time and date. I looked at my director. "I want to present this publicly. On September 29th at 10 a.m. The following day, both Apex Dynamics and Vanguard Labs announced simultaneous live keynote presentations for their incoming research leads. The tech forums exploded. Analysts assumed Vanguard would be crushed under Apex's influence. Just before the event, my terminal buzzed again. Unlisted connection. When I answered, I didn't need to guess who it was. But this time, I wasn't the target, I was the architect of the drop. The voice was the same as before, heavy and worn. "You switched institutes." "You told me to," I replied softly. There was a long pause on the line. I heard faint static, then something that sounded like breathing through immense pain. "Good. Who are you?" I demanded. "Not yet," the voice rasped. I looked out the window at the Vanguard campus. Techs and engineers walked by with the easy confidence of people who believed they owned their futures. Mine had almost been hijacked. What exactly happens on September 29th? Apex presents first. I know that. No. Listen carefully, the voice lowered. Apex does not present a breakthrough. Apex presents the frame. My pulse slowed. The voice continued. In the timeline I know, Julian demonstrated your engine first. Clara sat beside him, smiling like she engineered the core herself. His uncle on the board praised them. When you stood up later and claimed the IP was yours, they called you desperate. Clara cried on the corporate feed. Julian stated you had suffered a psychological break. His uncle testified your files were tampered with after their presentation. You lost your career before the tribunal even asked for the truth. My throat went dry. "Do not interrupt their broadcast tomorrow," the voice commanded. "Let them finish." "Why?" "Because thieves are careful until they feel applauded." The connection crackled. "Did I win in your timeline?" I asked. A heavy silence. "No." The answer was soft, but it hit harder than a physical blow. "Then who are you?" "Someone who already lost what you are about to defend." The call dropped. I stood there, the terminal pressed to my ear, before slamming my laptop open. The Decoy directory was blinking. Every unauthorized access point glowed on my dashboard like a heat map of betrayal. Julian had extracted the cloned archive the morning he visited my apartment. Then a secondary location pinged from Apex headquarters. Then a secured server tied to the executive board. Then Clara. Clara, who used to sit in my lab drinking synthetic coffee while I debugged code until 3 o'clock in the morning. Clara, who had been waiting near the door the whole time for me to leave the firewall open. I downloaded the telemetry, copied it, and walked straight into my Vanguard director's office. He looked at my face, then closed his own monitor. "What is it?" "Apex is presenting stolen proprietary tech tomorrow." His expression turned to stone. "I'm calling the Corporate Ethics Bureau right now." "No. If you report it now, Julian claims it was a cross-contamination error." Clara plays dumb. "His uncle buries it in legal red tape." My director leaned back. "You want them to broadcast?" "I need them to." I opened my tablet. The database Julian stole was a mirage. Not empty, but rigged to make them arrogant. Every algorithmic sequence has a hidden digital watermark. Every simulation carries a silent beacon. Every structural chart has an impossible recursive loop that exists only in that specific folder. He scrolled through the access logs. "Julian. Clara. Apex servers. You built a snare before you even signed your contract. I've been ready since the day they stopped pretending to care about me." He nodded slowly. "Fine. We let them hang themselves." The corporate forums fueled the fire before dawn. Apex's polished duo versus Vanguard's rogue operative. Clara and Julian are elite tier, one post read. Julian reshared a photo of them at Apex. Innovation isn't inherited. It is protected. Silence was my only reply. Silence was part of the trap. At 9:50 the next morning, the Vanguard auditorium was filled to capacity. My director stood near the side wall alongside two legal directors who had the calm, immovable faces of corporate prosecutors. On the console in front of me sat two terminals, one running the genuine neural architecture, the other monitoring the trap. At 9:59, the Apex global stream went live on our auxiliary display. Julian walked to the podium first, wearing a tailored suit and a confident smile, the picture of a man who knew how to turn intellectual theft into corporate leadership. Clara sat behind him, hands folded, looking immaculate and camera-ready. Julian's uncle sat in the front executive row, beaming. My director looked at me. Ready? Let them enjoy the applause, I said quietly. It will make the silence louder. At 10 a.m., Julian began. He introduced the breakthrough using my exact opening technical thesis, the exact sequence I wrote it to in the morning while Clara slept on my lab couch. Julian spoke smoothly, presenting the model and the metrics. Every single chart was pulled straight from the Decoy drive. Every slide carried my silent signature. Clara leaned toward her microphone. Next, Julian and I focused on making the recursive loops adaptable across early-stage datasets. I almost laughed aloud. She mispronounced a core architectural term, not enough for the public to notice, but enough for me to know she had blindly memorized a script without understanding the spine under it. The live stream chat flew by. Apex dominated. Vanguard should forfeit. Julian and Clara are brilliant. Julian reached the final slide, the Decoy's terminal frame, containing the hidden telemetry marker that no thief would notice. The Apex auditorium erupted into applause. Clara hugged Julian. His uncle stood, clapping proudly. For 3 full seconds, I let them have their triumph. Then I stepped to the Vanguard podium and our stream went live to the world. Good morning, I began, my voice steady over the audio feed. My research focuses on predictive neural modeling in unstable networks. I will demonstrate the true architecture first, and then address the version just presented by Apex Dynamics. I presented the genuine system clean, corrected, with the deliberate flaw removed, yielding metrics far superior to Apex's presentation. The live feed comments shifted from arrogance to confusion. Wait, Vanguard's model actually explains the system gap. Apex skipped this entire section. I paused, looking directly into the primary camera. Before I demonstrate the final deployment, I must thank Apex Dynamics for presenting my system security test so flawlessly. The internet comment feed froze for a split second, then exploded. I clicked to the next display. On the high-definition stream behind me, the stolen file directory replaced the research slides. The system Apex presented was not an original creation. It was a honey token decoy compiled after an unlisted alert warned me my research would be expropriated to frame me. Another click revealed the digital watermarks, memory dumps, and real-time IP access logs. The drive was accessed from Julian's keycard, transferred via Apex executive servers, and finalized on Clara's local machine. You didn't steal my engine, Julian. You stole the digital paper trail. The Apex live stream cut back to Julian. His composed posture collapsed in real time. He stared at the screen behind me, his mouth slightly open. This is absurd. She provided these files under a joint agreement. I clicked the remote. Julian's private messages filled the monitor. Send me the unencrypted key. I'll secure it. I think I dropped my keycard. Then came the security camera playback, Julian entering my workstation, pulling out a flash drive, cloning the Decoy directory, and leaving 23 minutes later. The timestamp stood in the corner like an unyielding witness. I only took them to back them up. Julian blurted into his live mic. You backed up my work the way a parasite preserves its host, I answered smoothly into the Vanguard camera. The global chat went wild. She brought security camera footage in 4K. Bro got caught red-handed. Apex board looks terrified. Julian grabbed the podium. She's twisting the facts because she's mentally unstable. I flipped to the next slide. Right on cue, I murmured. Up came the access block logs. 114 unauthorized intrusion attempts recorded after I rejected the Apex contract. IP traces pointing directly to Julian's private node. The Apex event moderator stepped forward, gesturing to Julian. "Mr. Julian, please step away from the podium while our legal team reviews this." "No, she had no right to trap us," Julian yelled. I changed slides again, displaying Clara's message thread, her covert updates to Julian, her drafts for a preemptive copyright infringement claim against me if I dared to publish elsewhere. Mention emotional instability and competitive envy, her draft read. The Vanguard auditorium went dead silent. On the stream, Clara covered her face, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I didn't know. I thought he had authorization." "You didn't need to know the authorization status, Clara," I said coldly to the camera. "You just needed to be near the door when the theft happened." Julian's uncle finally bolted from his front row chair, pointing an angry finger at the camera. "This broadcast is defamatory. Vanguard must shut this stream down immediately." My director stepped into the camera frame next to me. "Vanguard will not terminate a verified evidence disclosure. All logs were notarized and submitted to federal regulators 2 hours ago." The uncle's face lost all color. I clicked to the final evidence slide, internal Apex email showing the board receiving the Decoy files days prior, along with the uncle's explicit instruction: proceed. If she objects, file the ethics claim first to control the press. That isn't academic overlap, I concluded. That is corporate fraud. The Apex broadcast feed abruptly cut to a static screen. Broadcast suspended pending technical review. I didn't stop. For the remaining 20 minutes, I systematically walked through the real neural architecture, answering complex technical questions from global industry experts. I explained why the Apex version was doomed to fail due to the deliberate mathematical bottleneck I had embedded in the Decoy. When asked by a senior analyst why I designed it that way, I smiled faintly. Because an unoriginal mind only copies what it sees, it never understands what holds it together. When the presentation feed went dark, my hands finally began to tremble. My director took a step forward as if to support me, but stopped himself. He understood. I didn't want to be held up. I needed to stand on my own feet. My personal terminal lit up with an unlisted satellite incoming call. I stared at the flashing numbers. My director followed my gaze. "Do you need to answer that?" "Yes," I murmured, stepping into the quiet marble corridor. I pressed the receiver to my ear and waited. The gravelly voice came through softly. "You pulled it off." I closed my eyes, leaning against the cold wall. "Who are you?" A heavy breath vibrated through the speaker. Then came the reply. "I am you." The hallway seemed to tilt. Not with shock, but with a sudden, overwhelming sense of recognition. Somewhere deep inside, I had already known. The grief in her voice during that first call had belonged to someone who had lived through the wreckage. "In my timeline," she continued, her voice trembling slightly, "they erased me." Apex bought off the media. Julian claimed I was unstable, and Clara cried for the reporters. His uncle buried my access logs. I transferred the unencrypted key to Julian because I loved him. Because he promised to shield me. I swallowed the lump in my throat as she spoke. "I lost my credentials, my lab clearance, my reputation," she whispered. Every door in the industry was shut in my face before I could even explain the architecture. I spent a decade trying to reclaim what was mine while the world moved on. "How did you contact me?" I asked softly. "An experimental quantum node, a rogue signal that aligned with this exact date. I only had seconds the first time." "You saved me," I whispered. "No," she countered firmly. "I gave you the warning. You built the trap. You saved yourself." A silent tear slipped down my face. "I gave them the modified Decoy." She let out a faint, dry laugh. "You gave them the exact wrong version." We both laughed then, mine quiet and wet, hers worn, but filled with immense relief. "What happens to you now?" I asked. A long silence followed, filled only with rising static. "I don't think there's much of me left once this probability settles." "Don't mourn me. I was the version who lost. You are the version who survived." "Then I'll build enough for both of us," I swore. "Good." Her voice began to fade into white noise. "And never open the door for someone who calls theft devotion." The line went dead. I stood alone in the quiet corridor for a long time. When I walked back into the control room, the news feeds were already blowing up. Apex Dynamics had issued an emergency press release announcing the immediate suspension of Julian and Clara, pending an internal fraud investigation. Julian's uncle had been stripped of his executive privileges. Before the day ended, Julian tried reaching me from a burner number. Please pick up. My uncle forced my hand. I loved you. Clara sent a message too. I was just scared of getting left behind. You were always going to succeed anyway. I read them both without anger, feeling only a cold, clean emptiness. I blocked the number and deleted the thread. No speeches. No emotional labor for parasites. 2 days later, Julian tried to confront me outside the Vanguard administration building. He looked completely unraveled, his hair disheveled, his eyes bloodshot, clutching a legal document from an attorney who looked like he already regretted taking the case. Julian reached out as if physical contact could rewrite hard evidence. We need to talk. You destroyed my life. I stepped back out of reach. I let you present the exact file you stole. You destroyed yourself. You know I cared about you, he yelled, his voice cracking. I know you said that whenever you needed root access to my drive, I replied coldly. 2 Vanguard security officers stepped out from the main doors. Julian looked around frantically, suddenly realizing how small he was without a corporate apparatus protecting him. They escorted him off the premises while he screamed about unfair traps. Clara attempted a softer approach, sending an email with the subject line, "Please just read." I deleted it unread. Later, she waited near the campus gates, eyes swollen. Are we ever going to be friends again? She asked, her voice small. No, I said simply. After everything? Especially after everything. She stood there crying, but no cameras were rolling to capture her performance this time. The corporate fallout came in relentless waves. Julian was formally stripped of his engineering credentials, and federal regulators opened an investigation into corporate espionage. Clara's research clearance was revoked, and her name was scrubbed from all joint Apex publications. Julian's uncle was forced into an early, disgraced retirement after independent audits revealed a long history of stealing credit from junior researchers. Apex Dynamics suffered massive stock devaluations and issued a formal public apology to Vanguard Labs and to me directly. 1 year later, on September 29th, I stood in the primary auditorium at Vanguard Labs once again, not as a target in a corporate war, but as the principal architect of a globally recognized neural platform. My presentation title slide was simple: build the work, guard the door. During the Q&A session, a young researcher raised her hand. Do you regret letting them take the Decoy file and present it first? I looked at the clean timeline displayed behind me. No, because thieves are careful until they feel applauded. After the applause, they show the whole world exactly what they were willing to steal. After the lecture, I walked through the quiet, glass-walled halls of Vanguard. I pulled out my terminal. No satellite calls. No unlisted signals. Just my own reflection in the dark glass window, older than the developer who had hesitated over the upload button, younger than the woman who had called through a broken timeline to save her own life. I touched the glass gently. Still here, I whispered into the quiet space. Only the steady, rhythmic hum of the servers answered. I smiled, put the terminal in my pocket, and walked back into the lab to keep building.